you might say the Washington Post part of the political establishment, perhaps not of the GOP, but they certainly have a dog in this fight. Let's go to someone who clearly does not have any preference when it comes to who will end up being president, Chris Matthews. So he had similar criticisms of the GOP establishment. Now, he's not talking specifically with rights priebus here, but he's discussing sort of the idea that there should be safeguards against people like Donald Trump becoming the nominee. You'll see that in this video.
There is no establishment.
That's what I think we're seeing here.
Right, that's fractured.
Brian and Rachel, what we're seeing here, I think, is what we're probably seeing across the country. The lack of reality or of fervor or of commitment of the Republican establishment to stand up to Trump. They sit and fiddle about it and worry about it and, worry. And here he is winning, and nobody puts together an organization to stop. By the way, have you heard from Reince Priebus tonight? I mean, where is this guy? He's the party chair, and he has no leadership. Where is the guy? You know, Harry Reid was out here working every one of the casinos. He made sure his party won. And you can bet Debbie Wasserman Schultz has a favorite in this race. But I don't see anybody in the Republican leadership exercising leadership yet, right?
I disagree. I think they're letting the people vote.
Letting the people vote, you know? That's leadership.
A lack of reality, says the man sitting 30 feet from a plywood Brooklyn bridge.
I find that clip amazing. The reason why it's poor quality is because one of our viewers sent it to us.
Exactly.
And I love that you did, because we wouldn't have found it otherwise.
Because it's the live coverage. They don't archive all of that online after the fact.
And so thank you for being part of the show and making this show happen. So, and you were right to send that to us, because look at Chris Matthews' attitude. Let the voters decide.
Whatever you want.
Oh, you can just vote for whatever you want. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's a democracy where the voters decide and they vote for whatever they want.
Yeah.
Now, look, Donald Trump's a fascist. I can't be any clearer than that. And I wish that they wouldn't pick him. But you almost have me rooting for him because of how unbearably undemocratic you guys are. Because he's so pro-establishment that he thinks it should be rigged.
Yeah.
I mean, he says Debbie Wasserman Schultz clearly has a favorite. He said it, right?
Well, that's good. He acknowledged it.
That's right. She does. She wants Hillary Clinton to win. She's supposed to be the neutral referee who's the head of the party.
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing. That's not a good thing. He loves it. Like, look, the Democrats are doing a good job of rigging their election. Why can't the Republicans rig theirs? Right?
Yeah, I don't know that right there he's saying they're doing a good thing because she has a clear favorite. I think he's saying, I think he hates Trump, doesn't want Trump, and he's like, well, if the Democrats are going to be biased, they might as well be equally biased. Would you be on his side if he wasn't speaking about the head of the RNC? If he was just saying, where is the media to educate people about Trump and all that? Would you be on his side then?
Oh, absolutely.
Because that is his job. He's arguably not doing it. I haven't been watching his show, as most people don't. But it's specifically because he's talking about the RNC that you think he's going over the line.
Of course.
Okay.
No, look, it is the job of the media to bring you all the facts. Here are the policy positions. Here's what Donald Trump has said. Here's why it is deeply problematic, right? But it is not the job of the Republican Party to pick a king and say, okay, this is our choice. Now you must deal with it, right? And you're supposed to have votes. They are having votes. And Donald Trump didn't barely skate by in Nevada, the election that Chris Matthews is pissed about. Yeah. He won by 22 points. So what did you want Reince Priebus to do? To come in on the ground and to say, okay, like, and be like, no, everybody, don't vote for Donald Trump. Don't vote for, and Reince.
Well, the one thing he could do is he could have had some, when I say control over the caucus situation, I don't mean to control the outcome, but we have video of the people heading up the local caucuses wearing Trump gear.
Yeah.
Like there was just it was a mess.
No, that's a fair point. And if Matthews is partly referring to that, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But you can tell by the end his dismissive nature of it, just letting everybody decide.
Whatever you
Anybody
want.
decide?
Yeah.
Like the public? Ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So, look, again, they get me to not root for, but make a case for, because the guy's right in this case, for people I can't stand. Reince Priebus said, it is not my job as the head of the RNC to tell the voters which way they should vote. And he's exactly right about that. Yeah. In fact, it is his exact job to be neutral. And he said, you want me to go and criticize the guy who's our leading nominee. Do you have any idea how preposterous that is? Right? That the head of the RNC should say, don't vote for my guy. He's winning by a lot. He's very likely to be our nominee. But you know what? He's a little vicious and a little racist. Yeah, of course he is. All of your nominees have been, almost all.
I still don't fully agree, because he's the leader of the party, but he's not just the leader in regards to supporting whoever is going to run for the presidency. I mean, if he thought that Trump was definitely going to lose, was going to make the party look terrible, was going to cause them to lose congressional and Senate seats, and that it would long-term do damage to the Republican Party, it would be his responsibility as the leader of the party to stop that from happening. I'm not saying that he thinks that, but I'm saying that there are situations in which there are longer-term consequences to somebody being your nominee.
It's hilarious that we're having a conversation because one of the Republican nominees made the mistake of being openly honest about how racist he is. And the Republicans and the establishment are in a panic. Oh, no, he exposed them. They're not pissed that, I mean, they ran a Southern strategy, which was openly racist, which they later even apologized for. Ken Melman, former head of the RNC, came out and said, we're sorry, we ran a racist strategy for decades. But they never talk about that. They don't ask everybody, every head of the RNC to come out and say, sorry, we ran yet another racist campaign. In 2004, they ran a purposely homophobic race just to get people to vote against gays. They put it on the ballot. So we know all this. It's a fact, right? And so now they're like, oh, why did you expose it, Donald Trump?
Obvious.
We were doing it in a subtle way, right? We were getting all those racist votes without having to say it, so that we could pretend not to be racist. Now you've exposed us. That's what they're actually annoyed by.